In a world drowning in content, how do you create something unforgettable? In the fast-paced, hyper-digital era where every brand is fighting for attention, how does luxury stand out, stay personal, and feel luxurious? Welcome to Luxury Redefined, the show where innovation meets storytelling, where the future of luxury is being written, one bold idea at a time. I'm your host, Dr. Nermeen, and today we're pulling back the curtain on the art and science of building brands that people don't just consume, they remember, love, and live with. And there's no one better to take us there than Laurent François, a global creative powerhouse and the mastermind behind some of luxury's most talked about digital campaigns. From Dior's iconic WhatsApp drop-in with Jisoo, to immersive AR worlds for Omega, to rethinking brands communicate in Asia, in Europe, and across cultures, Laurent isn't just riding the digital wave, he is shaping it. With nearly 20 years in the luxury media and tech space and career built on firsts, Laurent brings unmatched insights into the emotional powerhouse of storytelling, the rise of subcultures, and why moodboarding has become a radical act of creative resistance in the algorithm age. This episode is a masterclass in modern branding. It's about the future of luxury, bold, human, unforgettable. So settle in, plug in, and open your mind to a fresh perspective on luxury, because it's time to redefine what luxury really means. Laurent, hi, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to be sharing this podcast today with you, and let's dive in. So, you've had an extraordinary journey across the digital and creative industries. What actually sparked this passion for you of this intersection between technology and luxury?
Hi, Nermeen. Thanks for having me. Actually, it's a great pleasure. So actually, things happen very organically. I don't come from a background in which luxury brands were present, so to say. But in my family, there was a strong recognition for work well done, and a certain passion for crafts. So little by little, I've discovered a world of luxury first through exhibitions, films, creative work on websites like Nowness back in days, and progressively through fashion, as I was in a previous life, a fashion blogger. I was writing a blog in France with a friend called Vuquan Nguyen, and he was running a concept store in Lyon. So it was a way actually to deep dive into the digital world. And as social media changed the whole game when I started my professional journey, luxury storytelling evolved as well. And it found new expressions. At that moment, I think it was 2009, 2010, I realized how strong it could be with brands like Louis Vuitton, which was a big client of my very first agency called Ogilvy. And we organized the very first Facebook live stream of a catwalk of a fashion show. And with this kind of client, which were extremely geek and extremely into subcultures, we had a very nice playground to work on. And from there, I kept a very strong curiosity for all things innovations and communications. I deep dive into emerging technologies as well. And there are indeed very big overlaps between the various crafts.
Laurent François, tell us who you are.
So I'm Laurent François, indeed. I'm French. I'm based in Paris. I'm part of a creative agency called 180 Global, and I'm a managing partner there in charge of the luxury department.
So you've launched some pioneering projects like the first WhatsApp activation. So Your name is quite associated with Dior's kind of digital side, with Jisoo and cutting edge AR experiences. What makes a digital activation truly memorable, in your opinion, in the luxury world?
It's a tough one. But for me, I think the most brilliant activations are the ones that can move people like really deeply. It has to become memorable, something they can refer to in the very, very long run. So in the case of this first activation on WhatsApp, we studied from a very, very strong insight. Suya or Jisoo fans are very appreciative of anything which has a sort of exclusivity bit, exclusivity piece when it comes to their favorite idol. It's even a sort of reward for their loyalty to access behind the scene content, to access some sneak peeks, collectibles, etc. So with Dior, we've decided to go full on subcultures in a way. We created a sort of secret WhatsApp group reserved to only a few thousand members around the world. And within this group, the promise was that you could access exclusive content, photos, videos, augmented reality filters, and experiences, additional resources, etc. The trick was that depending on what you are answering every evening through the WhatsApp API, it would dictate what you would receive the day after. So very quickly, the communities went crazy as they heard from this mysterious secret group on forums, on Twitter, in blogs. People started to share the link to try to get into the group, and obviously, because we were already fully packed, we couldn't have more people within the group. So the fans started to screen record everything, to screenshot everything, and they started to share as much as possible what they were experiencing in other social media. It went really crazy. Some fans even found me, actually, dropped me some direct messages, etc. So in a sense, it was a way for Dior to give something very precious to Jisoo fans and to their own customers, to make them enter a very branded world, a very progressive one as well. Because as you were chatting and unlocking various stages in the experience, it was extremely pleasant from a sort of social design perspective. And yeah, and it was I think one of the first case where fans of both Dior and Jisoo could enter a sort of story world in which they had an active role to play, and in which they were, in a sense, sharing the reputation of the role experience.
I like that you use that keyword, the social design. That's quite nice. That brands like Dior are actually going that far to think of the social design on social media and the digital world. I really enjoyed reading your piece about mood boarding. So in your piece about mood boarding, where you describe it as a form of reclaiming narrative in a saturated algorithmic space. Can you shed a little bit more light and tell the viewers more insights about this thinking?
Well, thank you for reading this piece. I think we're all experiencing a kind of fatigue from social media. There's also a structural problem in a way that we've reached a sort of plateau in terms of average time spent in social media. I think it's 2 hours 20 according to GWI and so on. So you can't make people spend more time because you can't extend a day. And a lot of platforms do try to intensify our online experiences. So it's extremely exhausting. Moodboarding, on the other side, is skyrocketing as we speak because I think it blends probably 2 or 3 ingredients. The first one is that it's a very pleasant and satisfying activity. Suddenly, you cut content, you reorganize it, uh, you make sense of what makes you tick. So there's something slightly candid and childish maybe, but which is very yours, which is extremely personal and very pleasant. I think the second reason is that it conveys a lot of your inspirations, of your deep self, of what you truly believe in, of what you actually like, your aesthetic vibe, and so on. You cut your content, you reorganize it, you remix it, you make sense of it, uh, and you decide in the end if you want to share it for someone or just keep it for yourself. So again, there is something like a sort of secret garden, which is fairly beautiful and connecting things that have nothing to do at first sight. It's something which is extremely creative and extremely powerful. And I feel that that's a bit the third reason why mood boarding is so important, is that it's also a way to tackle the algorithmic recommendations, the suggested content. You can decide to blend a fruit picture with a model in a random place just because you want to. So I think it frees people from sometimes very restrictive recommendation. We talk a lot about doom scrolling. On the other side, I feel like mood boarding, it's more about the pleasure of discovering again things. So it's more about the heuristic. And in a sense, the heuristic is maybe the counterpower of algorithms. So yeah, it helps selling the upcoming collections, the upcoming products, but it's a sort of red thread. It's a sort of theme. It's a narrative, I would say, product, which is going to influence everything that Hermes does everywhere. And it's basically a massive curation of talents, of artists they like, of their events, of everything around one red thread. Now, what's super interesting with this, let's say, comeback or return of this type of print magazines, of this type of format, is that in a sense, we turn the curator into a new kind of author. And I think it's really something that please a lot of people, especially in the luxury field. Why? Because when you like so much a theme, when you like so much watchmaking, for instance, you tend to go way deeper into the knowledge, into learning new things. There was a very interesting stat from Google actually during Paris Luxury Summit. If I remember correctly, on average, luxury customers, they Google things when it comes to luxury using more than 7 keywords. So that's very interesting because when they look for something, they really go very, very, very deep to get the knowledge, to get the details of something they truly like. So Pinterest, obviously, there is something extremely, let's say, personal and um, made for luxury, which is actually blending all these inspirations, all these aspirations into digital constructs, into sort of cultural objects that people can relate to, can refer to, which is extremely playful as well. So it's a massive, I would say, help to better consider a specific theme or a specific, let's say, mood of this very rich maison. Substack, on the other side, I think it's truly a bit the future of publishing and a bit the revenge of people who were not so keen to use Instagram or even to use TikTok. So it's really the comeback of long form writing content. So you take stylists, for instance, you take people that actually make fashion, that truly make luxury. They might not be that keen to use Instagram because they don't want to show their face. They don't truly like the way the algorithm rewards the users. And suddenly on Substack, you have a bit the best of long form blogging and a bit the best of what you get from social networks. Why? Because the content you create is going to meet a very niche audience, which in general is going to spend a lot of time reading your content and potentially commenting, adding some pieces, enriching your points in an extremely pleasant way. So for me, to answer more directly your question, it's not just the visual storytelling for me. It's more the sort of mixed media era in which you need to blend visuals, archive, history, sound bites to actually tell a story that people will want to truly dive into with their headphones and potentially in a they're going to allocate some time to listen to read properly. So there is something extremely pleasant in order to engage, let's say, relevant audiences in a way more
Mhm.
impactful way. And yeah, it's taking off. And I know for certain that a lot of luxury brands are at the moment monitoring a lot what's going on because you have amazing phenomena. You have like, I mean, I'm not going to name drop, but you have Laura Ray from Magazine, for instance, and it's a crazy curation of amazing recommendation of vintage items, of fashion collaborations, of design objects. The way she curates this list is so good that the 50K or 70K people who subscribe to it, they would love to buy everything she recommends because it's extremely thorough, it's extremely detailed, and it's every day or every 2 days in your inbox, and she's recognized for it. You have
Mhm.
Queen and Guyenne. She's blending food, pop culture, and fashion, and suddenly people rediscover or discover a theme they had no idea that it could actually be blended. And so you have this sort of magics of um, discovery and discoverability, which is extremely, again, chill as well for the luxury customer. It's not like imposing a post in a feed. It's actually letting people spend a qualitative time with you on a space which is made for slow reading, for slow listening. So yeah, it's even good for mental health, I think.
So that kind of makes me wonder, do you think this is a new way of consuming luxury or a new way of presenting luxury, or has it always existed?
I think the social function already existed somehow.
Mm.
Book clubs are not new. Even Tupperware groups, in a sense, when you go to some places, you have a host and a brand shows you in a sort of more comfy way the product. I mean, it's not new. What's very interesting, though, is that these social functions are blending into a digital format. So suddenly we rediscover the fact that we can free ourselves from the feed logic, which is actually very, very weird if we take that in consideration. Before the feed logic, it was more about doing a search, finding a place, spending time, potentially sharing, and going away. The feed is more like a sort of anomaly of our internet browsing somehow. So it's a beautiful anomaly because we suddenly all went in one place. But basically, with these spaces, we are rediscovering that the design of the internet can be way broader, way richer, and yeah, and that it's not just a feed logic, and way more design and way more sophisticated UX can actually emerge. I mean, the beauty with luxury as a whole is that there is no rule but the crafts and but something exceptional. I When I look at maybe indie brands, I like Amélie Pichard typically, French designer, and I mean she raised in fame a couple of years ago because of her collections, and she's decided to stop like totally overnight because she was fed up with the pace on which she needed to communicate. And she decided to reopen her Pichardise, her boutique, And this online boutique only opens a couple of days a year and a couple of hours a year, which is exactly the opposite of what we are taught to do when it comes to e-commerce, which is frictionless, seamless, making people click, 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 and so on. So again, that's one example among others, proving that when it comes to luxury or super high-end, you have tons of ways to be able to hack the principles that seem to be taken for granted, whereas actually, in the end, it's up to the luxury customer to decide if they want to buy into a concept, into a world or not. Bottega Veneta disappeared from Instagram for years now. And in the meantime, we've never talked that much about Bottega Veneta. I mean, since the day they've left the platform. So I think there is something around it which is extremely interesting. Is that we can hack the platform, or we can also decide to go entirely against the rules of these platforms, because luxury brands and luxury, I would say, people in general are capable of creating new rules and to reshape them and redefine them. If you are Chanel, and that's it. If you don't want to go full e-commerce, you won't go because you are Chanel. That's pretty pleasant to have this sort of statement and to have this type of, I mean, to be able to do this kind of choice. Now, when it comes to creators, we also see a sort of, not retaliation, but a new generation of creators who are as well a bit fed up working for the platform, because they feel like their work is a bit, constrained by the platform, and they decide to run their communities and to express their own talent in different ways. So I think about Karen X Cheng. I mean, she decided to provide a lot of tips and tricks to other creators worldwide to actually free themselves from Instagram or TikTok. So she's very active on Patreon. You have some artists who decide not to be that active in social media or in traditional social media, and who are exploring decentralized, kinds of social networks. It's very niche. It might, reach maybe 500 people, but these 500 people are in a position to understand why it's so good and why it's so relevant, and to buy into maybe luxury brands that go into that direction. So going back to your question, I think these stakeholders do hack the platforms not because they want to become anti-capitalist. That's really not the point. It's because I feel like they want to extend the creative playground to actually meet another kind of audience, or to bring an audience to a different type of experience than what anyone could do on the exact same platform. So there is something very, very interesting at the crossroad of, maybe strategy, maybe technology, but more importantly about the world you want to build with your communities.
But as well as your first-hand experience working with brands, key brands like Dior, you also co-founded an agency, a creative agency, which was later acquired by Omnicorn. And I'm just wondering, what were the key lessons from building a business that, rooted in both creativity, but also rooted in performance?
I mean, the lessons we get every day. The first one is that it takes a lot of time. Sometimes we tend to say digital equals digital specialists, and we approach that as something very functional. Actually, there is indeed a part which is hard skills that you need to learn, which is, very functional. It's true. But in a very strange way, when you work with communities, with large audiences, you need to read through the lines of digital, of the codes, to start feeling a community. So there is a word which is a bit overrated, but it's interesting to mention it. It's the vibe, Everybody has been talking in 24 about brands need to convey a vibe, which is very intuitive in a way. So, yeah, slightly overrated because it can mean anything and nothing. But indeed, you need to let your creatives, to let your people start feeling a community through a screen, and you are going progressively to feel what's right, what's wrong, what's within your brand, let's say, well, what's not. When Loewe, under the previous era, I go with a Loewe tomato bag. If you don't know the brand at all, you're like, wow, very bizarre. But because they've been creating this vibe based on rational, I would say, argument, points, and so on, what's very interesting is that you are going to be able to play with your community, to be able actually to convey this kind of mutual understanding or shared understanding of what is our playground and what is not. So that's the first thing. It's taking the time to start feeling a community. It's actually something which is, I would say, crucial when it comes to luxury. The second thing is that we need a level of curiosity which is absolutely, I mean, crazy. Why? Because what you've learned from a platform, let's say 5 years ago, might be completely different now. Why? Because every time there is a new feature, it actually changes the type of behaviors that you imply to people. So if we take the Instagram stories typically, well, playing with close friend feature or not close friend, playing with disappearing messages or not, it suddenly becomes a tool that actually people are going to take. Some of them are never going to take off. Some others are going to be the gold standard, are going to be culturally normal. So everything changes constantly. So you need constantly to have a sort of balance and go and forth between the fundamentals that you need to secure somehow, but the ability as well to refresh, to play with these new dimensions that the digital world offers us. And as the two worlds are so intertwined now, we don't even talk anymore about digital versus real world. It's a bit the same sort of space. I think even Bright talks about the fourth space now. Super interesting is that you meet people first online, then you want to have a tangible relationship in real life where you go potentially deeper, and then something keep rolling online only, and then you gather again. So there's something which is extremely important. Is to be able to monitor all of this and to make sense of such a fragmented and extremely weird, I would say, dimension, because it's a very conceptual dimension. The third thing is that it has to be very collaborative with our brands. What I mean by that is that when I take, I mean, I always take the examples of my clients, but when I see the level they have, like internally, whether it's in image direction, in digital skills, most of them are passionate about the products that are actually sold by their company. I mean, it's really it's very different, I think, from for other types maybe of marketing. Is that you have in front of you passionate people. I don't know anyone working for a watchmaking brand who's not passionate actually about the watch they have, about maybe a second-hand market or pre-love market acquisition they've done over the weekend. So it changes completely the relationship because yes, in the end, we are a supplier, we provide a service, but the way we work with these talents is a bit like, yeah, we are an embedded force within an already very strong force. So it forces us to be very humble as well and to be very collaborative, for essence, exactly like in a craft in a way.
And so when you're scaling this brand, how do you try to scale it but keep the soul of the brand at the same time?
So I think there is this methodology. It's not from me, it's from TikTok. They divide it into stay versus play communication stream. Basically, what they tell us, and I feel like it's pretty true, you need to provide a lot of content and a lot of things for the communities who stay and who've been staying with you maybe for the last 5, 10, 15 years online. So it means you need to provide tutorials. If you sell a watch, obviously, these people are going to want to see how a movement works. So they're going to be expecting from the brand to be fed on specific categories of content and to attend specific kinds of events, activations. I think it's pretty clear. On the other side, you have the play aspect to it, which is how do we refresh our community? How do we bring new tribes, new types of people to our brand while staying true to ourselves? So it's a sort of subtle balance between the two. When you look at successful brands, most of the time they have a very solid stay strategy because they have to, because that's a fundamental, I would say, of luxury. If you need people to buy haute couture, they need to understand haute couture. Otherwise, they will never buy this kind of elements. If you want to maintain perceived value, and we know at the moment that it's a challenge for nearly anyone in the market, you need to feed people and equip them with the fundamentals and why your product is great. However, I think we need to bring back the original mindset and maybe the first years of all these brands, they used to be all very entrepreneurial. They used to be, for most of them, disruptors, a bit crazy when we think about it. I mean, Gabrielle Chanel, I'm sorry, she was totally there to disrupt everything and to change a bit a part of the world. Louis Vuitton, I mean, it's the same story. So we need in the play part probably to bring back the pioneering state of mind, a bit the young at heart vibe of the brand, to actually dare again to go and meet the new avant-garde, the new people that are actually bringing the edge to these brands.
So you're a visiting professor as well as an industry expert. What insights from younger generations are influencing your current work?
I mean, they influence me a lot, you're right, and in a very good way. My first observation is that there's something extremely straightforward and very real when it comes to luxury. Like, I was last week in Geneva, and yeah, communication, advertising, of course, it's important, but they want to see the real thing. And they have an appetite to go real. And I guess it's probably the same for you, but they love going to the shops. They love going to the museums. They love talking to the master watchmakers or to the actual craftsmen and craftswomen who do all this magic. So there's something very real, nearly raw, I would say, which is always super interesting from a creative agency standpoint, because sometimes we tend to love the conceptual aspect, and sometimes we, take for granted the operational things. So yeah, the realness and the raw aspect of what they are, what they like, is always a good inspiration. The other thing I notice, and I don't know if it's thanks to globalization and through I don't know, the diasporas and so on, but the people I talk to are way more multicultural than my generation, for instance. And I find it extremely pleasant is that when you talk to these students, you realize that they speak various languages. So the cultural references they have is way more sophisticated and way more, I would say, nuanced than what we think. Sometimes contradictory, sometimes graded. I mean, so it's super cool because you suddenly change, I would say, the way we work. So we no longer try to think about demographic-based persona in a way. We tend to go more into the motivation driver and into the passion point and the interests. Why? Because we've realized that these youngsters, yeah, they are friends with other youngsters, of course, but when they have a deep passion about, I don't know, haute couture or I mean, they're going to regroup online, and it's not necessarily a demographic element which become the shared trait, but the passion itself. And the third thing is that, which I find sometimes tricky, obviously, um, is that they tell you directly what they think. Like when I was at school, I was hesitating. I was trying to formulate a point of view before, and then when I dared to say something because I disagree, I mean, I was extremely soft. And here, what I find extremely, I mean, fascinating is that it goes very political and very straightforward very quickly. So the pros is that it generates a crazy good level of conversation, because when you have an opinion, then another opinion raises. Now, in the cons is that when we work with these youngsters, we also need to create a consensus, to create a compromise, to create a balanced vision that will ultimately spread to millions of people potentially. So, how do we turn a me opinion, a me point of view, to something a bit more us? So it takes a bit of time, but it's also very pleasant to be challenged, I would say.
I have two questions for you. If you would describe the future of luxury digital branding in one sentence, what would that be?
um, it's a tough one again, but I would say we need to make magic using logic. I mean, it's a principle, but I think it tells a lot what we need to do using digital. Is that there are some tricks, there are some, I would say, mechanisms. That's a bit the logical part of it, and we truly need to master it. Indeed, as digital gets more and more sophisticated, it's no longer I send a teaser, I reveal a hero video, and then help yourself. We move to the other campaign. Is that now it's a full system. It's designing an entire world. And again, if people want to inhabit in an Armani residence, it means that people are physically and literally able and in demand to live within the story world, within the brand world. So that's for the logical part. The magic is that, and I think it's a bit the same if you are on the luxury brand side, is that if we buy luxury, it's not because we have an immediate functional need. It's because we want to dream, we want to transmit. There's this need for poetry. There's this need for dreaming again. And what I find spectacular in terms of weak signals is that despite all the controversies, the geopolitical constraint, and so on, there is a crazy big appetite for all the dreamers and all the crafters. Take, Guerlain. All the collaborations they do for the festive season are all about, ambijouter le monde, are all about stressifying the world. And it's not naive, it's not candid, that suddenly it brings people to this little, leap of faith, this little leap of humanity, which is so pleasant to work on.
So there's so many phrases that I would like to use in this, maybe in the description of this episode. One of them is use logic to create magic. The second question for you is what, I mean, you being an academic, also having one kind of foot in academia, what more research would you like to see over? What topic would you like to see prioritized in the future academic research?
For me, there are two topics. And again, I'm just a low-level academics because I'm just a visiting professor, and so I'm happy to be surrounded by academics. But one of the field of study that I would love to get insights from, I haven't seen a lot of studies about how does a luxury brand age and grow with actual customers? What I mean by this is that some people will have discovered Saint Laurent Paris when they were 15 years old, and they have followed the saga, they have followed the brand for now 10 years, and they might follow Saint Laurent Paris for the next 20 or 30 years. Are there evolutions? Are there, key moments? Are there a sort of life relationship in a way between these people and the actual brand? And how do we actually grow at the right pace between a community of luxury clients and the brand itself? For me, it's key because in digital, you try to earn not only attention, but a sort of long lasting tie with people. So finding a way to modelize it in a maybe less intuitive way could be absolutely dazzling and inspiring. Maybe it would be a 20-year-long study, but why not? After all, we are in the luxury world. The second thing,
Yes.
the second field, I mean, everybody talks about AI, of course. We talk a lot about parasocial relationship with celebrities. I do believe that we have parasocial relationships with some luxury brands, or at least some elements of the luxury brand. So that's a field of interest for me. It's how do we actually modelize the importance of a luxury brand in one's life? What I mean by that is that whenever you ask someone about his or her first watch, the first time you went to a beautiful dinner, to a beautiful restaurant, the first time you acquired something expensive, there is a very strong emotional story that people keep with them for the next 50, 60 years. And people do generate or do create or do feel a parasocial relationship with this object. So same, we have a lot of intuitions. There are some, psychology studies here and there, but applying that to luxury would be, for me, fascinating.
I will certainly be discussing this with you offline because both of them are really interesting topics. Thank you so much for your time and dedicating an hour of your day to this podcast. And I hope to stay in touch.
Of course. I mean, thanks for having me. It was an immense pleasure. And cheers from sunny Paris.